Well, hello everyone. Welcome to Therapeutic Yoga today. We are going to be doing a very important class today, and that is because we are highlighting one of the most important muscles of the lower half of your body. And so here's what I want everybody to do at home right now. I want you to take your finger and your thumb, fingers and your thumb, and I want you to kind of oppose them so that you make a circle between your fingers and your thumb. Now look at the size of that space between your fingers and your thumb. That is approximately the size of the diameter, you guys, of your psoas muscle. And so when I say that it is a big muscle, I am not kidding. It is big in diameter. It is big in length. So let's talk about the psoas muscle real quickly. So each and every one of us understands the importance of what we're doing today relative to the health of our back, the health of our hip, but more importantly, the health of our nervous system. That's the one that often gets understated, and I want to highlight it today. So the psoas muscle is a hip flexor by name. So what that means is it picks up your leg. So it allows you to flex your leg. You have 4 hip flexors. The psoas is the deepest and the biggest of those hip flexors. So it attaches all the way onto the inside of your hip bone, your leg bone. So if you were to just gently place your fingers down and into your groin area, that's approximately where that muscle attaches relative to your leg. When we move all the way up the spine, it attaches to every single segment of your lumbar spine. And best yet or worse yet, depends on if you want to be optimistic about this, there are actually slips of your psoas fibers that come all the way up to your thoracic spine. So when you think about the psoas connection to the spine, it is significant. Now, here's what I want to teach you today. When you look at the psoas muscle, so it's this big, gigantic muscle right here, all right? It conjoins with the iliacus muscle, which is the hip flexor muscle that sits on the inside of your pelvis, and they become a tendon that meet to connect to the leg bone. But relative to the spine itself, it is just this big, gigantic psoas muscle. The inside part of the muscle, so the inside part of the muscle that's closest to the spine actually affects the movement of your spine. The outside of the muscle that more distinctly conjoins with the iliacus muscle to become the iliopsoas tendon has a lot more significant of a role relative to the hip. So when we talk about the psoas muscle's function, yes, it's a hip flexor, but it is also a very significant restrictor of back and spine movement, and it is a spinal stabilizer, meaning it keeps your spine stable when it's efficient. The problem is, for a lot of us, it isn't an efficient muscle. So that is our entire focus on today. Outside of its function relative to the spine and its function relative to the hip, the other really important thing that I want to talk about relative to the psoas muscle is it is the only, I repeat, only back or lower leg muscle that has a direct connection to the nervous system. And the reason for this is something called your anterior sympathetic chain, which sits on the front of your spine, sits underneath this psoas muscle. So if the muscle is tense and tight, it's going to directly reflect how tense and tight your nervous system is. So it's very important for us to have a healthy length of our psoas muscle. It's important for us to have a relaxed psoas muscle so that it doesn't negatively impact our nervous system. And thirdly, it's important for us to have a psoas muscle that has the ability to fire and be strong. So we're going to tackle all of those components of this gigantic muscle today. So what you're going to need for class is a chair to start with. We're going to start with some gentle lengthening of that psoas muscle in a seated position. But when we get down to our yoga mat, you're going to need a bolster or something that you can elevate your pelvis up off of the floor. And then we're going to be doing some really nice, slow, relaxing work on that psoas, laying on our belly today. So you're going to also need a pillow so that we don't put our lumbar spine in too much extension. So this is what you need. Go ahead and get that if you don't have that, and then come back and join me. So we're going to start in sitting, working on a breathing exercise once we find an efficient sitting posture. So have yourself to the front half of your chair. Once you have it so that half of your leg bone is off the chair, line your feet up so that your knees look like they're kind of sitting directly perpendicular on top of the arches of your feet. And once you have that position, just gently feel what is hip distance for you for your feet and your knees. So if you were to take your two fists, from an anatomical standpoint, that's a generality that your two fists between your knees or your big toes will be approximately hip distance apart. Once you have that position, allow yourself to take your hands up to your pelvis and feel your pelvis roll forward and roll backwards on the chair. If you have any tension on your back when you roll forward or backward, maybe put a pillow underneath your sit bones on your chair and bring your chair a little bit higher. But if not, just gently allow yourself to start to slowly move the muscles of your low back and your pelvis by rolling forward and backward, tilting and tucking. And then find that point for you that's approximately halfway where you feel like you're actually sitting on your sit bones. And when you get into that position where you feel like you're sitting onto your sit bones, don't necessarily contract any muscles, but sit up nice and tall. And then from your hip joints, literally keep your entire spine still and just slightly hinge forward. Now, here's the trick that I always give my yoga class to know if you've got yourself sitting efficiently, meaning there's weight through your feet, you can't pick your legs up, I can't pick my legs up, and there's weight through the pelvic floor on the chair. So make sure that entire pelvis is sitting on the chair. Now that you have that position, let's take our hands and just gently place your hands like you're holding a tray in front of you. We're going to do this with two arms together today, but just slightly shrug your shoulders up a little bit towards your ears. Gently turn your arms outward. As you do that, you roll your shoulder blades out and back and down by pulling the elbows back and down. Now slightly give a nice little squeeze between those shoulder blades. You might even feel some opening through your chest muscles doing that. Keep that squeeze between those shoulder blades, but as you squeeze, slowly unrotate your arms and just gently place them onto your thighs. And then finally, lengthen your neck and settle your chin and rest your tongue on the roof of your mouth. And so we're going to just work on breathing where we're inhaling and we're exhaling for double the time. So we're just going to use 3 and 6 as some arbitrary numbers. Obviously, we could use 2 and 4. We could use 4 and 8. We could simply use 1 and 2, but that's a pretty quick breath. So we're going to use 3 and 6 today as we breathe in and out of our nose. And I want you to focus on that air coming down into your abdomen or belly area. So in through the nose, take a deep inhale for 3, 2, 1. Through the nose, exhale, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 4 more times. Inhale into the nose, 3, 2, 1. Exhaling, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale, 3, 2, 1. And exhaling, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhaling, 3, 2, 1. Exhaling, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Last time. Inhaling, 3, 2, 1. And exhaling, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Very nice. Now, staying in the exact same position that you're in, using that pelvis to tuck and tilt, but also adding the arch and the sag of your spine. Let's do some seated cat-cows here to start to gain that length of that psoas muscle in the front of your spine. So inhale and roll the pelvis all the way forward, lift the chest up and gently look up to the ceiling. And then as you exhale, roll the pelvis backward, rib cage curls under, look down into the seat of the chair. Inhale, roll the pelvis forward, lift the chest up and away, lengthen the neck, gaze up to the ceiling. Exhale, roll the pelvis backward, rib cage curls under, check into looking down at that chair. 2 more times. Inhale, roll the pelvis forward, lift the chest up, gaze up to the ceiling. Exhale, roll that pelvis backwards, rib cage curls under, gaze goes down to the chair. One last time here. Inhale, rolling that pelvis forward, lifting that spine high, lengthening, looking up to the ceiling, and exhaling, rolling that pelvis back. Rib cage comes down, lengthen, gazing down towards that chair, and then finding yourself back in the center position. Now, simply just turn yourself to the side of your chair. So as you turn yourself to the side of your chair, we're going to do gentle lengthening of our psoas by kind of gently moving one leg at a time. But I want to make sure that your spine stays in a neutral position. So what I'd like you to do today is to take both of your hands, and once you see that your left knee is directly on top of the arch of your foot, allow yourself to slowly lean forward and place weight into those 2 hands onto that left leg. Just going to allow you not to move your spine too much since you're kind of weight bearing through that left leg. Now in this position, slowly place the right knee directly underneath the right foot. Now, not doing any tucking or tilting yet, but just creating a little bit of length through those hip flexors, specifically the psoas muscle. As you inhale, just try to push your knee back and push your heel back a teeny tiny bit. And as you exhale, just relax back onto the toes. So inhale, just push the knee back a bit. Exhale, relax onto the toes. Let's do that 3 more times. And as you do that, don't let your trunk or your body move. Inhale, push back into the heel. Exhale, relax onto the toes. And 2 more. Inhale, push back onto the heel. Exhaling, relaxing onto the toes. And one last time. Inhaling, pushing back onto the heel. And exhaling, relaxing onto the toes. So just kind of tugging from the bottom part of that psoas to start giving it a little bit of length. Now let's start to give it length through the pelvis muscle, through the pelvis area where it literally is the thickest. So hold yourself so that knee is directly underneath that hip joint. And it's all about pelvic motion here and lower lumbar motion. So keep your hands on your left leg. And as you inhale, just tuck that tailbone under. Feel that opening through the front of the pelvis and the front of your thigh. And as you exhale, relax. Inhaling, tucking under for a second. Exhaling, relaxing. So we're not holding a stretch, we're just creating length. Inhaling, tucking under. Exhaling and relaxing. 2 more times for me. Inhaling, tucking under. And relaxing. And one final time. Inhaling, tucking under. And exhaling, relaxing. Now, in this position, allow yourself to take a deep inhale. And on the exhale this time, tuck under, stack that knee perfectly underneath that hip. Keep that hold and give me 2 diaphragmatic breaths, creating the length here as you inhale. So take a deep inhale into your belly and exhaling out. One more time, deep inhale into the belly. And exhaling out. Beautiful. Releasing that tension through that right psoas and allowing yourself to turn to the opposite side. Again, we're just working on increasing the length of it, but not putting a lot of tension on it in a sitting position. So place yourself so that your right knee now is directly underneath your right ankle. And then once you have that position today, allow both hands to come in, just gently bear the weight of your trunk over that right leg, so that you're unloading this leg and you have the ability to create that gentle length. And so then stack the hip directly under, or on top of the knee. And then once you have it here, just a gentle movement. So inhale, push the knee back a little bit, push back with the heel, and then exhale and relax. It's not big, but it's enough to tug that psoas from its length position. Inhale, push back. Exhale and relaxing. Let's do that 3 more times. Inhale, pushing back. Exhale and relaxing. Inhale, pushing back. Exhale and relaxing. And one final time. Inhaling, pushing back, and exhaling and relaxing. Now find that perfect position where the hip is directly on top of the knee. And now we're going to inhale as we pelvic tilt here. So inhale, tucking the tailbone under, feeling the stretch to the front of the pelvis and the thigh, maybe into the abdomen. Exhaling and relaxing. Inhaling and tucking. Exhaling and relaxing. 3 more times. Inhaling and tucking. Exhaling and relaxing. And inhaling and tucking. Exhaling and relaxing. One last time. Inhale, tuck. It's kind of like just creating light length, and exhale and relax, and not any forceful positioning of it. Now take a deep inhale, and on the exhale, tuck under. Really maintain your tuck this time. Really maintain that hold there. Now, how deeply can you breathe into your abdomen? Nice deep inhale in and exhale out. One more time, deep inhaling in and exhaling out, and relaxing that tension of that leg. Now, before we get down onto our mat, let's take a moment to do a nice good forward fold. A lot of times, remember I said that muscle is tense. And so it's not so much that it has an issue lengthening, which is what we just worked on doing, but it actually has an issue folding. So if we do a nice good sequential fold, it allows that muscle to learn how to fold properly. So have your feet a little bit wider than your hips, maybe a little bit wider than your shoulders. We're going to be going downward towards the floor between our knees, but we're going to do it sequentially, starting at the top, moving all the way to the tailbone, so we can teach that muscle how to fold really nicely. So in this position, slowly allow your chin to come to your chest first. Then start to roll the rib cage down. So feel your upper back, your thoracic spine arching. Take your gaze and let yourself roll down until your elbows completely bend. Once you get to the point that your shoulders are up and over your knees, gently start to drop your arms down as you continue to slowly sequentially bend until you have yourself in a full seated forward fold. Now really make sure to keep that neck long, chin tucked, gaze back underneath your chair. But today is about that psoas. So what I want you to do in this position is I really want you to take a deep inhale into your belly. And as you do that, you squish and massage that muscle and tell it to chill out and relax. So deep inhale in and exhaling out. One more time, deep inhale in and exhaling out. No, I think we need to do it another time. So deep inhaling in and exhaling out. Good. Now push into your feet for me. Start to tuck your tailbone under, and then very slowly, starting at the tailbone, then the sacrum, then every one of those lumbar segments, and then your thoracic spine, slowly curl yourself all the way up. Keep that gaze down until those shoulder blades are back and down, and then slowly allow yourself to bring your head all the way up. Very good. So at this point, we've created nice, slow, intentional length into the psoas muscle from the bottom and from the top, and we've given it a nice, good squish to learn how to fold. Where we're going to next is down to our mat. So what I would like you to do is just gently take your chair and move it out of your way, and then meet me in child's pose on your mat. All right, so we're in child's pose here. So let's talk about what an efficient child's pose looks like. So gaze back, make sure that you can't see your toes touching one another and they look about hip distance. Maybe check in by putting your fists between your knees at their hip distance. Settle yourself down onto your heels. Just let your elbows be soft and rest on the floor. If your neck is not tight or your upper back is not tight, maybe the crown of your head makes it to the floor, maybe it doesn't. But if it does not make it to the floor, find that bolster right now near you and place it underneath the crown of your head so that you've got good support for your neck. And keep your gaze straight back between your feet. And here we are once again in a fold of that hip flexor muscle, that psoas muscle, but we may not have done it sequentially. So all I want you to do is just take 2 nice, slow, deep, intentional breaths into the belly. And exhaling out. And let's do one more. Nice, deep inhale. And exhaling out. Very nice. And then slowly bring yourself up into a kneeling position. But as you come up into a kneeling position, grab that friendly little pillow that I asked you to grab at the beginning of class. Now, here's the thing. In sitting, we had the ability of falling over the chair to be able to create that sequential folding of our psoas muscle. For a lot of us, where the psoas muscles are really tight are through our pelvis and the lowest part of our back. Even when we go into child's pose, it doesn't allow us to create that folding or that length that we need through our low back. So oftentimes, a pillow is very beneficial to do a fold over in child's pose. So here's what I want you to do. Take your pillow, no matter what size it is, and just allow yourself to roll it up and kind of push the pillow up and into your hip creases. Now, with your hands being on the pillow and on the thighs, take a deep inhale, and as you inhale, lift your rib cage up. You just lengthened your psoas. Now, as you exhale, let your head come down first, let the rib cage come down first, and then feel that low back creating that space as you once again come into child's pose. But this time, there's a lot more difficulty to breathe into that belly because you're kind of creating that folding of that psoas muscle. Allow yourself, if your head is not supported, which even mine isn't at this point, to just kind of allow your head to relax for a second with your neck lengthened and your chin tucked. Now try to, if you can, just 2 breaths. Take a deep inhale into the pillow. Feel that stretch through your low back. You're shortening that psoas. That's what's going to relax it. Exhaling out. Let's do that one more time. Nice deep inhale into it. And exhaling out. Beautiful. Slowly curl yourself up. Take your pillow, place it beside you. We're going to be using it in just a minute, laying on our back. But before we do that, we're going to do one quick opening of that psoas muscle in kneeling. So what I want you to do is take your hands and knees for a minute. Let's do a couple of cat-cows. Actually, let's do 3. And then we're going to get ourselves into a kneeling position. So make sure those index fingers are forward. The big thumbs, the thumbs are inward. Wrists and elbows are underneath the shoulders, and hips are stacked directly underneath the knees. Now, make your focus today on that tuck and that tilt of the pelvis. So that doesn't mean don't use your upper body at all, but I really want you to focus on that pelvic motion, which is going to create shortening and lengthening of that psoas. So take an inhale and really imagine that tailbone going up towards the ceiling. And then as you exhale, tuck that tailbone under between your legs as much as you can. You've got it. Inhale, lift that tailbone, feel that belly dropping. There's the length of the upper half of that psoas muscle. Now, as you exhale, tuck under, and you're getting a little bit of folding of that muscle. One last time. Inhaling, really lift that tailbone up. Get that length of that upper part of that psoas muscle that a lot of us with arthritis in our back have difficulty with. And then exhale, tuck that tailbone under. You've got it. Now, find your bolster if you need balance for support. If you don't need balance or support for balance, then don't use a bolster. Just simply place your hand onto your thigh, whatever's comfortable for you. I think I'll just do my hand on my thigh today. But if you have balance difficulties, please, please use the bolster so that you don't feel like you're going to fall. Double up your yoga mat if your knee is a little sensitive, and just stack your hip directly on top of your knee. Now, in this position, make sure that your left ankle is underneath that left knee area, and make sure that your left leg is wide enough that as we do a nice good pelvic tilt to create that length, you don't feel like you're falling backwards. Now, allow yourself to bring that rib cage slightly forward, a bit of hand weight into that left leg. Take that right hand today and place it up onto that pelvis. Nice deep inhale for me. And then as you exhale, really tuck that tailbone under. You've got it. Now, maintain that, but we're going to do something else today. Take your right foot right now and just see if you can push it slightly outside, just slightly outside of your knee width or your hip width, and keep your tuck. As you do that, that internal rotation is putting a little bit of extra stretch right where that psoas muscle attaches to that hip bone. Can you hold this tuck really tight and give me a nice deep inhale into the belly? And exhaling out. One more breath. Deep inhale into the belly. And exhaling out, relax the pelvis, bring the foot back in alignment with the knee. Hands come down onto the mat. Step that left knee back. Once the left knee is back, bring that right knee forward. Again, by all means, use your bolster if you need it for balance. First and foremost, stack the left hip on top of the left knee. Right knee on top of the right ankle, and then weight bear a little bit into that right hand so that that rib cage is slightly forward and not behind your pelvis. Take a nice deep inhale, left hand on the pelvis, and then on your exhale, tuck your tailbone under. Now, today, just to get specifically that psoas muscle, just turn that left foot out a teeny tiny bit. As you do that, another deep inhale. Exhale, really tuck that tailbone under, holding that stretch right there. I really feel it on my left side. Now, can you take a deep inhale into your belly? And exhaling out. One more time, deep inhale into the belly. And exhaling out. Beautiful. Release the pelvic tilt. Bring the foot back in alignment with the hip and knee. Step the right leg down. 3 more cat-cows, and then we'll go back to child's pose. So gaze back. Make sure your feet line up with your knees. Hips are stacked. Allow yourself to get those wrists and elbows back in that position. Really focus on that pelvic mobility today. So as you inhale, sink that belly, lift that tailbone up. And as you exhale, really tuck that tailbone under, pull that belly up and in. Let's do that 2 more times. Inhale, sink that belly, lift that tailbone up. Exhaling, really tuck that tailbone under, really pull that belly button in. And final time, inhaling, really sink, lift that tailbone, and exhaling, really tuck under, really arch that back up. Now, can you stay in this flexed position of your spine and slowly walk yourself back into your heels? Grab that pillow if you want to. Take a nice deep inhale, and from the head, sequentially fold yourself down into your child's pose. Make sure those toes don't fall together. 2 breaths here, and then we move on to our belly. So take a deep inhale into your belly and exhaling out. Nice deep inhale into your belly and exhaling out. Slowly bringing yourself up. Now, here's what you need. You need a pillow to lay underneath your chest and your belly. Once you have that in the position that you need it, take your bolster and bring your bolster all the way down off the end of your yoga mat. Your toes are going to be on the bolster, not your ankles. Once you have that position and you think, okay, I think I'm good for the body length that I have, lay yourself down up and over your pillow, but make sure that that pillow does not lay on your pelvis, okay? And then once you have that, you can just kind of rest yourself down and make sure you can see that your toes are touching onto your bolster, but not your ankles. Now, this is a very, very important position to stretch the psoas muscle for those individuals that have arthritis of their back related to the discs. So a lot of times we lose mobility of our low back and that psoas muscle gets very stiff near the spine. This is a great way to lengthen that psoas muscle right next to the spine. So allow yourself in the position that you have yourself now to make sure that both sets of toes are resting onto the bolster. We're going to do one leg at a time, and you will understand once we begin why. So take your right toes and now turn your right toes under so that the bottom of your toes are touching that bolster. Left foot stays completely relaxed. Nothing is happening there. In this position, as you inhale, lift your knee up, push your heel away, and your right hip pointer, that point on the front of your pelvis, make sure that it stays in contact with the mat so that you're getting length through your hip, length through your pelvis, length through your spine. You have it. Now allow yourself to hold that position. Yes, by the way, it's really good work for your glutes and your quadriceps to lengthen the psoas muscle. But keep that heel pushing away from you. Keep that knee straight. Now here's where we're getting the length out of the psoas from the front, from the top side. Take your elbows and place them underneath your shoulders, and now bring yourself in that Sphinx pose. If you have a very sensitive back to extension, do not go any further than this. Keep yourself right here. But if you know, I have some degenerative disc disease in my back, I want something else that can fix me, then take your right hand, bring it underneath your right shoulder. Don't let go of pushing that right knee, that right heel away. Keep that right knee straight and take an inhale and see how high you can lift yourself up. You are now stretching fully through that right psoas muscle in this position. Can you hold it there and take a deep inhale into your belly? Make sure that right pelvis bone is still touching the floor. And exhale out. One more time, deep inhale into the belly. And exhaling out, drop yourself down onto that right elbow. Relax that right leg down. Is your quad sore? Mine is. Okay, now let's do that all over again on the left side. So drop yourself down off your elbows. Let your upper part of your spine relax for a moment. And take your left toes and turn them under. Now that your left toes are turned under and touching that bolster, take an inhale and really push that heel away from you. Straighten that knee, but that left hip bone, the thing on the front of your pelvis on the left side, push it down into your yoga mat so that you're not rotating, you're creating length through extension of that psoas muscle. So keep that heel pushing away from you. Allow yourself to keep that knee as straight as you can get it. Guys, I know it's a lot of quad work, but that's what we need to do to get this psoas muscle fully lengthened. Now, allow yourself to come up onto your elbows. If you have a sensitive low back, this may be as good as it gets. Just focus on keeping that heel away from you. Focus on keeping that knee straight. But if you want to really specifically lengthen that entire psoas muscle on the left side, take your left hand, place it underneath your shoulder, and then take another inhale and kind of push yourself up with that left side. In this position, make sure as you push yourself up, that left pelvic bone, that front of that hip pointer, still touches the floor. Straighten that left knee, push that heel back. My quadricep is getting tired, so is my glute, but let's do 2 breaths here. Nice deep inhaling in and exhaling out. 1 more breath, deep inhaling in and exhaling out. Release your elbow down so that you're down onto your elbows, and then relax that knee down. All right, good workout for those legs while we're working on that psoas. So now just rest the upper part of your body. You can drop your head down onto your hands if you like. And what we're going to do this time is the exact same thing through the legs, but we're going to allow ourselves to really focus on getting that stability through our gluteal muscles and our low back muscles. So here's what I want you to do first. Take a nice deep inhale, and as you exhale, feel that you are hardening your abdominal muscles. So imagine you can feel that those lower abdominal muscles have hardened. Don't do a firm, hard pelvic tilt. Just brace and tighten those abdominal muscles. Now that you have that, right toes, turn them under. Take an inhale, push that heel away, and lift that knee up off the floor. Really focus on keeping your abdominals and your spine perfectly still here. Now, here's what I want you to do. Can you keep that knee straight and just point your toes away? Full on glute activity here. Can you do that? Holding that position, keep those abdominals tight. Give me a deep inhale in and an exhale out. Nice deep inhale in, exhaling out, and relax that foot down onto the floor. Let's give it a try on the opposite side. So once again, brace, really feel those abdominals tightening. Turn the left toes under. Once the left toes are under, take that inhale and push that heel away. Straighten that knee, keep that pelvis in contact with the floor. All right, abdominals are engaged. Make sure the spine doesn't move. You don't arch it, you don't move your pelvis. Can you take an inhale and simply point your toes away and use those gluteals and those spinal stabilizers to keep that leg lifted? Holding here, deep inhale in, exhaling out. 1 more breath, nice deep inhale. And exhaling out, dropping that leg down onto the mat. Now, slowly allow yourself to make your way back into child's pose. So just kind of push your bolster away from you so that your feet are flat onto the mat again. Take your hands underneath your shoulders, lengthen your neck, settle your chin so that you're not in extension. Tuck your tailbone under and push yourself back into child's pose, gently taking your pillow, moving it away from you. Once you're in child's pose, or once you're in kneeling, try to do that forward fold sequentially. So again, if you've got an accentuated arch in your low back, maybe you want to use your pillow, but at least allow yourself to bend at your neck, bend at your rib cage, bend at your lumbar spine, and slowly drop yourself down into your child's pose. Rest your elbows down, rest the crown of the head down. Maybe reach for that bolster to rest the crown of the head on if it cannot meet the floor. And then let's go through some breathing here. So take a slow, deep, intentional inhale into your belly. Maybe count it for 3. And then as you exhale, maybe count it for 6. Take your time. Deep inhaling, maybe count it for 3. And exhaling, maybe count it for 6. And then slowly tighten your abdominals from the tailbone, curl yourself up into a gentle kneeling position. All right, now find that bolster, place that bolster in the center of your mat. We are now about to do the most aggressive component of stretching through that psoas muscle. So if you haven't had enough lengthening already, well, here is even more for you. So what I want you to do is I want you to bring yourself up onto the bolster. Have yourself so that half of your thigh bone is off the bolster, but that you feel like your entire leg bone and your pelvis is on the bolster. Once you have yourself in that position, gently drop yourself down onto your left elbow or right elbow, however you're getting on it, and then allow yourself to roll over onto your back so that your entire pelvis is resting onto the bolster. Now, if you're using pillows or foam or something, just make sure you feel like your pelvis is elevated off the mat at least 2 or 3 inches. Once you have yourself in this position, just gently allow yourself to bring your knees to your chest, lengthen your neck, settle your chin. Make sure your toes aren't crossing. Take a nice deep inhale here, and then as you exhale, just gently bring your knees to your chest. So folding of all of that psoas muscle, holding in this position. Really take a moment to lengthen your neck, settle your chin, and then think about that belly into those thighs. Take a nice deep inhale into your belly, and then exhaling out. One more time, nice deep inhale into the belly, and then exhaling out. Now, holding the left knee to your chest, take both hands up and around that left knee. Interlace your hands if you like. Focus on that left knee for a second. Take a nice deep inhale, and then on the exhale, really pull that left knee into your chest. With that right leg now, take an inhale. Kick that right leg away from you, and with as straight of a knee as possible, as you exhale, try to drop your heel down towards the floor. Now, are we getting fabulous lengthening of that right psoas muscle? So in this position, keep the left knee to your chest. Really feel like that right leg is lengthening away from you. Your gluteals are firing. You're really opening up through the front of the hip component of the hip flex of the psoas, but you're also lengthening up through the pelvic component of that psoas. Hold this position. Keep that right knee as straight as you can. Remember that nervous system component? Take the deepest inhale into your belly that you can right now. And then exhaling out. One more time, deep inhaling in. And then exhaling out. Take an inhale, straight leg, lift the leg up into the air, and then as you exhale, bringing that right knee into your chest. Now, if you feel like you have slid anywhere off of your bolster, just kind of pull yourself back down on it so you feel like your entire pelvis is on the bolster, keeping both of those knees back into your chest. Take your left hand, interlace it with your right hand around the right knee. Take a nice deep inhale, and on the exhale, pull that right knee into the chest. Now time for that left psoas. So can you take an inhale, and as you kick that leg straight away from you, on the exhale, really push that leg as straight down into that floor as you can. Goal obviously would be a nice straight knee and that heel touching the floor with the right knee to your chest. Now keep lengthening that left leg away from you. Allow yourself to get that perfect length through the hip component of that psoas and the pelvic component of that psoas. Now, let's treat that nervous system. Take a deep inhale into that belly and exhaling out. One more here, deep inhale into the belly and exhaling out. All right, on your inhale, straight leg, lift that leg up, and on the exhale, pull that knee into your chest. Beautiful job. Now just take a moment here to bring both knees back into your chest, hip distance apart. Staying in this inversion for a second. That psoas is nicely folded again. So allow yourself just to feel the length of your low back. Take a deep inhale into your belly. And exhaling out. Let's do that one more time. Nice deep inhale into the belly. And exhaling out. Beautiful. Now, gently place your hands on your bolster and allow yourself just to push your bolster a little bit further down so that you feel like if your knees were stacked on top of your hips, that the bolster is directly underneath the pelvis. So you're not pushing it away from you, but you want to make sure that there's no pelvis underneath your back at all. And then allow yourself to place your heels onto the floor. If you position your pelvis or your bolster correctly, your shin bones should be fairly perpendicular to the floor for your heels to touch your bolster. So play with that at home and see if you can find that position so that the pelvis is underneath the bolster, then feet are underneath the knees. Now, no better way to create lengthening through that pelvic component and that hip component of the psoas muscle, but through doing an active bridge. But we're going to do an active bridge using a bolster today. So here's what I want you to do. Nice and simply, allow yourself to take an inhale, and on the exhale, brace and harden through your abdominals. So feel everything harden. Now that you have that, on the inhale, just push your knees away from you just until you unload your bottom off that bolster. Can you unload your bottom off that bolster? Feel the nice opening of the psoas here while you're strengthening through your gluteal muscles. Make sure that you're not overarching your back. So if you feel like you're thrusting your pelvis up, give it up, tighten your abdominals, just push your knees away. Holding that position, give me a nice deep inhale and an exhale. One more time, nice deep inhaling here. And exhaling, and then relax that pelvis back down onto the bolster. Bring that right knee back up onto your chest. Bring that left knee back up onto your chest. Stretch that low back, maybe even a little rock and roll on that bolster, particularly if you used a little bit too much back muscle, if those glutes are weak. And now allow yourself to fully push your bolster away from you. Now, you are done with your bolster, so kind of roll it away, kick it away, push it away from your mat as much as you feel like you can. And then have your feet so that your feet are hip distance on your mat. Take your right knee to your chest, take your left knee to your chest, hands around the outside of both shin bones. One nice deep inhale here, and then exhale, pull your knees into your chest, lengthen your neck, settle your chin. Well, we have spent a good amount of time working on creating length through the hip component, the pelvic component, and even today, the back component of the psoas muscle. But we haven't done any strengthening. So let's take this last moment, stack your knees just in front of your hips to find that contraction, that facilitation of the deep fibers of the psoas that communicate to stabilize that spine. So in this position, take your right hand to the front of your right thigh and the left hand to the front of your left thigh. Drop your heels down, point your toes up, lengthen your neck, settle your chin. Now, guys, I want you to very lightly begin to push your hands into your knees and your knees into your hands, just until you feel like the muscles of the palm of your hands and the muscles of the front of your thighs have started to meet, but you don't feel any movement through your back or your pelvis. Once you have that, with the palms, attempt to try to lift the palms upward onto the thighs, like you're reaching upward towards the ceiling, but you're still arm wrestling with the thighs. And hopefully, just hopefully, you're lucky enough, you start to feel a nice gentle shaking in your abdomen and the front of your hips. That is that connection of those deep abdominal muscles with the deep fibers of those psoas muscles. That's that part of that psoas that's closest to the spine, starting to turn on, just like you're turning on a light in a room, a dark room. So keep lightly pushing, keep lightly lifting those palms up. Feel that beautiful shaking. Give me a nice deep inhale into your belly and exhaling out. One more time, nice deep inhale into the belly And exhaling out. Beautiful. Gently bring the knees back into the chest. Give them a hug. Fold that psoas muscle. Relax your ankles. Take a deep inhale into your belly here. And exhaling out. And one more time. Nice deep inhale into the belly. And exhaling out. And then release the right foot to the floor and the left foot to the floor. Now, we're going to do one more thing for that psoas muscle before we get to our end of class. Now, remember at the very beginning of class, I showed you that that muscle kind of attaches into that inner groin, that inner thigh area. So if the muscle was to tighten, what it does is it creates a rotation of the hip as well. So we're going to end our class doing a little bit of gentle movement of hip into external rotation today. So slowly slide your left leg down. And once your left leg is slid down, slowly walk your right foot to the edge of your mat so that the outside of your foot lines up with the outside of your mat. Now check in that your low back isn't arched. So give yourself a gentle tuck under if your back is arched, so that there's about an inch space between your low back and your mat. And once you feel like you're in that position, stay there by tightening your abdominals and firming them. If on the other hand, it's natural for you to push your low back into the mat, gently arch your low back so there's about a hand or an inch difference between your low back and the mat. Maybe even keep your hand there to figure out what that space is, and then harden the abdominals. Now, nice and simply, here's all you're doing. Relax your neck, lengthen it, settle your chin. Left leg stays nice and relaxed. The abdominals are still engaged with the right leg. Take an inhale, and on your exhale, very, very, very slowly, allow the leg to fall out to the side. If the abdominals are braced, you're only going to go so far, because if you go much further, the pelvis begins to rotate. Don't let that happen. Let that leg rest wherever it goes. And once it's there, pay attention to that back not arching. Maybe feel a little bit of stretching into that inner thigh area where that muscle attaches. And can you give me a nice deep inhale into your abdomen area? And then exhaling out. Let's do that one more time. Inhaling into that abdomen area. And then exhaling out. Now on a really slow inhale, very slowly rotate that hip and that leg back into that upward position. Walk the foot inward so that it's underneath the knee. And keeping the abdominals braced, the low back in a neutral position. Slide the left leg up, slide the right leg down. Now, not much difference you need to do with your low back and your pelvis, because all you've done is just changed which leg is up and which leg is down. But start to walk your left foot to the edge of your mat so that the outside of your foot lines up with the outside of your mat. Check in that your spine is in neutral, and then brace, harden through your abdominals. Now with that left leg, on a nice deep inhale, on a very, very slow exhale, gently let the leg start to fall out to the side. When do you stop? At that moment, you either can no longer brace through the abdominals, or you feel that pelvis starting to lift off on that right side. So it's not as big as a rotation as you may think through that hip. Now allow yourself to hold right here. Lengthen your neck, settle your chin. Take a deep inhale into your belly. And exhaling out. Deep inhale into the belly. And exhaling out. And then very slowly on your inhale, bringing that left knee upright as you unrotate that hip. And then just walking the left foot in. Keep walking the left foot in until you can place the left foot up on top of the right thigh. Now take that right hand, reach for that left knee. Left hand gently out to the side of your body. Take a nice deep inhale here. And then as you exhale, slowly rotate that left knee to the right. Feel the pelvis begin to lift. Feel the low back begin to lift. Feel the rib cage rotating to the right. But then keep that left shoulder blade down, lengthen through your neck, and then slowly rotate your head to the left, gazing at that left thumb. Take a nice deep inhale into your belly here. Can you slowly exhale that out for that count of 6? One more. Inhaling in. Can you slowly exhale out for a count of 6? And gently bringing your head back to the center, starting at your rib cage and unrotating the rib cage, and then the low back, and then the pelvis, and then unrotate the hip. Place the left foot on the floor. Allow yourself to slide the right leg up, slide the left leg down, walk the right foot, up onto the left leg. Left hand this time to the right knee, right hand out to the side of your body. Taking a nice deep inhale here. And then on the exhale, starting to rotate that right knee to the left, feeling that pelvis beginning to lift. Feeling the low back lifting, feeling the rib cage lifting, keeping that right shoulder blade down, and then gently lengthening the neck and rotating the head towards the right to gaze at that right thumb. Beautiful deep inhale into your belly here. And then exhaling out. One more time, nice deep inhaling in. And then exhaling out. Slowly bringing your head back to the center, starting that derotation of that spine by letting the rib cage come first, followed by the low back, followed by the pelvis, then the hip. Placing the right foot on the floor. And once your right foot is on the floor, kind of fiddling with your low back, finding its comfortable position, gently sliding the left leg out to the left side of the mat, and then slowly letting that right leg come down and rest to the right corner of that mat. Find yourself in a nice, comfortable position here. Roll your shoulder blades underneath you. Rest your arms out to the side of you. Lengthen your neck, settle your chin. And today what I want you to do while we're just resting here in Savasana is I want you to be very mindful and maybe even more visual in your head as to really picturing the size of your psoas muscles. So just kind of picture where the inner part of your leg bone meets your groin area. And then just kind of visualize a straight vertical line up through your pelvis. Imagine that muscle. Remember, it's the diameter of the circle of your hand that we did at the beginning of class. It's a big boy in there. And then feel it, imagine it attaching to your spine. Keep attaching and make its way all the way up. Maybe upwards to where that rib cage is. And then think about the other side, that groin area where that inner thigh is in that space. And then picture a vertical line as that muscle is going straight upwards towards the spine. Think about how thick it is. And then picture slips and pieces of that muscle attaching to every single back spine segment. And keep attaching segment after segment as you move up that spine. And finally, give yourself this last moment resting here to work on 2 or 3 of those breaths, really inhaling into the belly for a count of 3. And as you're exhaling out, letting the belly relax, letting yourself imagining that psoas muscle completely relaxed and soft, putting no tension on our sympathetic nervous system, allowing ourselves to be nice and relax and rested. And then when you're ready, start wiggling your fingers and your toes and doing circles with your wrists and your ankles. One leg at a time, gently sliding that foot flat onto your mat, followed by the other, and then slowly letting yourself roll over onto your left or your right side. Resting there for a nice good breath, nice deep inhale, and then an exhale, and then on and the next exhale, bottom elbow, top hand, push yourself up into a seated position. Allow yourself to find that seated position of tailor sitting, gentle, easy pose. Hands are to our heart. Nice, good smile on our faces. May our psoas muscles be lengthened, relaxed, and strengthened. Take a nice deep inhale in. And exhaling out, namaste. The highest in me salutes the highest in you. Thank you for joining me today.